Kalong ke kubor ke babha kadai ke kentian ke balayos ngau nak sentur menteri rangba ke jela ukonrat kesang ma Mario Wai ke jengelang kenhun menteri hakapor bayakran bat kilat pathai kubor mat pens ngau halor ke kaipat ke badang syok pediang nak ke Airport Authority of India AAI. Hakajia kran bat kilat pathai kubor menteri rangba ula pentip bagajia lang kalalong kajia kran halor ke jingdon kam ban Pynheh ya ke Shillong Airport ke balaya kran halor ki katu kat ni ki benta ke bayadai bagajingdon kam ban Pynheh bat ke Jaka wan yu bat yat ki Liengsuiñ ki bahe hapok ketika airport ya ke baulong Andalala ban Pynheh ki Liengsuiñ kum ke Liengsuiñ A320 Boeing 737 ki badan shispa nyopotli ki Jaka shong dakaba ai nuksa kum ke Indigo bat SpiceJet kinla ban 1.0 ban kentiu shibun ya ke jela kham tam bat ka kam jungok kai perthai nolor kata uloong ki bun ki jing e ki bla dab ban mat bat ki kai pot barim ki pen I ya ke jing e nrei andala dab ban le ya ke jing wat pnya ke kai pot ke badang shuyo pediang ke pen I bakalong ke bala ban Pynheh ke Jaka yat ki Liengsuiñ bat ke basa menta ke dai ban hapan don ke je kran bat ke sarkar kme kata bat ke DGCA bat ke Ministry of Civil Aviation.
As you are aware that we have been facing a large number of challenges and previous technical reports had made it quite difficult for us to actually go into the feasibility of expanding the airport, but after doing a study which was sanctioned by the state government last year to do a LIDAR survey of the entire area around the airport, about 20 square kilometers was studied. And this is of course being done with Airport Authority of India on board. We are happy to inform that we have been able to come out with few options where in the existing airport itself we should be able to extend the runway, which would make it feasible for at least the Airbus A320 and the Boeing 737. 737 is it correct?
Yes, sir.
Boeing 737, which is about 170 seater aircrafts. In layman's term, basically the Indigo flights and the SpiceJet flights that we normally take. So this particular study and this particular master plan and this implementation should allow us to make the landing of these aircrafts feasible in the existing airport that we have. Of course, there are certain more clearances that are required. Further discussions have to be done with Government of India, especially with DGCA and the Civil Aviation Ministry. So we are on the job. It is still at, you can say, the process and the planning stage is still on. But the initial report that we have seen today from the Transport Department is very encouraging and very positive, and we are hopeful that we should be able to take this forward. But as I said, that I will not jump the gun right now. We will only come out with a detailed press note and all the facts once we are able to clear all the clearances and meetings with the DGCA and the Civil Aviation Ministry. But since this was in the agenda and since we discussed this, and since it's a positive news for all of us, I thought I would share this with you, that after the meeting we had, we are quite hopeful that we should be able to extend the runway, and we're hopeful that if all the different aspects fall into place, we should be able to land the normal commercial flights, which is normally the A320 and the Boeing 737 in the existing airports.
Shillong Airport thing. So by when this expansion what will be completed?
So we cannot say, as I said, because we have to talk to DGCA and we have to talk to the Civil Aviation Ministry. But the survey that was done along with the Airport Authority of India, the survey and the technical report has come out feasible. So we are on the right track. Now the process starts of actually extending the runway, certain permissions required from DGCA, certain other aspects and works that need to be done, details of which I will share in a later stage with you. But what my point being is that in the previous months and years, we were still struggling on looking at whether we'll go for a new site, whether we have to chop off the mountains, whether we have to do all those things. So at least we are now clear that we have a very, very much reasonable and a feasible option in front of us, which is very much implementable, and we are now on track. Timing is something that really depends on so many factors, because some of the factors are beyond our control. But what I would like to share is that we are now in the right direction, and the process is on, and we are very, very hopeful that we should be able to, move the things in the right direction. But definitely, it's something that will take time, because extension of the runway has to be done. I can share with you that we have to extend the runway by about 500 plus meters. So obviously that requires so many aspects to be looked into. So we'll look at all those aspects. But as I said, at least now we know where we're heading.
Cost
Sir,
what
what
will
will
be
be
the
the
total expenditure?
financial?
Exactly, it's something that we cannot say, because it requires a bit of land acquisition, it requires a bit of construction, but definitely it's not going to be in that line where we're talking of chopping off the mountains, which is going to take 8,000 crores, which is something that was very, very difficult for us to take a decision on. We're happy that now we will not require any major destruction or cutting off mountains. Maybe a bit of cleaning up has to be done, which is bare minimum. Bit of land acquisition just to extend the runway, a bit here and there, and create some parking space for aircrafts, and obviously the implementation of the actual extension of the runway. So very, very practical, realistic, and doable steps now are there. Exact cost is something which obviously I cannot say right now, because we have to go into the details of it. But it's not going to be anything close to what was being thought of in the past, where we would require large amount to chop off the mountains. No, nothing like that. Very, very reasonable and doable actions are required. Yes, obviously we have got concerns, which is always there. I mean, it's not about this project alone. In any project, obviously land acquisition is something that we have to work on. But I think what is important to note is that this project is a game changer for our state. I think everyone who is part of this must realize how important this project is for Meghalaya and for tourism sector, and what potential this has to change the entire landscape of the economy and tourism sector of our state. And hence, this is something that we must all work together to get through. So yes, there could be challenges. I don't know. I'm not sure yet, because we have not started the process yet. But today's cabinet has given the approval to go ahead and now start the process. So let us see how things go forward. But yes, we look at cooperation from all angles. As I said, this is for the larger interest and good of the people and the state as a whole.
A question about the regional imbalance. Is it a fact that you have abandoned the Baljek airport? You're only concentrating here?
Absolutely not. In fact, the discussion of land acquisition for Baljek is also on. The land acquisition process, the identification by the revenue department, revenue branch of the DC office is already under process. They have done an initial report. The Airport Authority of India was not at that point satisfied with that report. So another detailed report is now being prepared. So both are going hand in hand, and we are keen that in both locations the flight should start. In fact, the work for the Baljek airport has started before the process for this one, for the Umrah airport started, because in Umrah airport we were also looking at the option of a new location. But then that's when the government, we sat down, when we said that, well, why don't we revisit this and see once more and invest a bit on technical reports, and maybe there could be an option that could come out where we may be able to actually bring in the larger aircrafts in the existing airport itself. So it was a chance we took, and we're happy that this particular step we took has given us a an option. So we were happy with this, and we are working ahead and going ahead with Baljek also. In fact, in Baljek airport also, in advanced state, all the discussions are taking place at a very, very advanced stage. Yeah. So I don't want to say that we have to negotiate. I think that would not be a correct word.
Get approval.
Yes, exactly. We need approvals. We need some kind of permissions from DGCA, because DGCA is the ultimate authority to give us the license to move forward. And hence, we could have certain issues. It would be wrong on my part to sit here and say that everything is now on track and we're ready to move forward. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we have done our part. Transport Department along with Airport Authority has now submitted this proposal, or at least gone through this proposal and given us a feasibility. The next step now is to sit with DGCA and present this to DGCA, and we're hopeful that when this is presented to DGCA, if there are any issues to be taken up, we hope that those issues will be resolved, and that's the only reason why I've said that. So those will be as per the discussions, and as I said, it's too early for me to go into those details. But since DGCA is the authority, all I'm saying is that it's not correct on my part as a state government to say that we are on track. Everything is in. Now, next step is with DGCA, and I'm hopeful that that meeting also will be positive. We are working very hard on this, but I think the bottom line at the end of the day is that we are seeing the roadmap in front of us. That is what is important, and we didn't have this roadmap before. We really didn't know how to move forward because the old studies were showing a very complicated challenge in front of us. But now this new study has brought out this new process and a new way forward. And now the next step will be to meet DGCA, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to find a way forward. So those hills were part of the initial plan. If we had not cut those, then even the flights that are landing now would not have landed. So now when we cut those hills, it paved the way for us to bring the regional connectivity through Udan, the Q400 flights, the ATRs landing, and other aircraft landing. If we had not cut those hills at that point in time, even those aircrafts would not have landed. But now we're looking at the bigger aircrafts and bigger challenge. So which means now we have to right now. Please note, I'm not saying we have to cut any hills right now. Please, you have to quote me correctly. Right now, the way we had to do it earlier, before the Q400 and the ATRs landed, was at a larger scale. We had to clear the mountains. We were told that we'll have to clear bigger mountains for the bigger aircrafts to come in. That is not what's going to happen now, is what I'm telling you. Now we know that we only have to clean up, you can say, a bit of here and there, some bits sticking out here and there. It's a very, very bare minimum, even lesser than what happened last, 5 years back when we took the decision. We went ahead, which paved the way to bring in whatever 15,000 passengers flying every month into Shillong city today. Into the airport, I'm sorry. So that was paved the way. Now what we're going to do is very bare minimum. Now our focus is on the extension of the runway, clearing up a bit of hurdles here and there in terms of mountains, no major chopping, and therefore the cost is going to be drastically very, very, very low compared to what we had expected earlier.
Habatin, page bahagi kashab plus F.
Ka plus F?
Hakabam bangibam dunaki eki batay kamet. Namar kata habathiru atau kau kamlu ka umpnyang kadut pet ya kashab plus F haka jingsom. Yaki nutrient kumki vitamin bat ka ayan la icon diat bada ka bathau bha kam kata ikadur jingki marbam ka jingmat lani ka rukom shed yaki. Balehi banai kita. Kadon ka we ka jing mentoy ba kongsan. Ka kot ka kia. Ka nutrition ba khambha ka jing im ba khambha pendon kam daki mar ba modon ka sharp plus F menta kasni
Lawan Ra Shafi Lingba ko office jong Commissionerate of Food Safety Meghalaya.